I'm Marin, and this is Post-its and Pens. Hello and welcome to or welcome back to my channel. My name is Marin, and here you will find a little beauty, a little books, and a little teaching content. So if that sounds like something you might enjoy, I would love for you to subscribe and stick around and join me in my little corner of YouTube. Today's video is going to be my August reading recap, where I will take you through all of the books that I read during the month of August and let you know my thoughts and final ratings. So let's go ahead and get into the video. Now, if you watched my August TBR video, which I will link up above, I will just tell you straight off, I did not finish my TBR for the month. I haven't been very good about that the last several months, and this was no exception. So getting that out of the way, we're gonna go through these 7 books that I did manage to read in the month of August. I am going to start with my least favorite and end with my top favorite. So here we go with number 7. So number 7 for the month was The Clue in the Diary, which is the, what number is this? 7th. This is the 7th Nancy Drew book. I was supposed to read this in July. I did not. I read it in August instead. I did enjoy this just like I have most of the others. I gave this 3 stars. I think, again, it's a solid story. I would say that this mystery was a little bit more advanced than some of the other ones were. I did a whole vlog on this though, so instead of me talking about it at length here, I'll just link you to that vlog up above. You can check it out. I did like it. I think this was a good mystery, and the nostalgia factor is still quite strong. All right, coming in at number 6 is Anna and the French Kiss by Stephanie Perkins. I had this one on my Kindle for 10 years, maybe? I don't know. I know some people adore it. Some people can't stand it. I was thinking I would have stronger feelings about it, but that did not actually wind up being the case. This was a 3-star read for me. I liked parts of it. I didn't like parts of it. I do think Anna's characterization felt very authentic in terms of a girl being sent to school overseas with like no warning, no preparation. Her family is just like, peace out, see you later. And her learning to adapt to that new country's culture felt very real. I did not like the romance, and that's like basically the whole the whole premise of the story. So you have Anna and you have Etienne, and Etienne is basically cheating on his girlfriend with Anna the entire time, even though Anna and him are not actually together. And that did not sit well with me. I did not like that. And the fact that Anna didn't seem to mind it as much as I felt like she should kind of bothered me. So in the end, I'm giving it 3 stars. It's fine. It's very typical YA, especially for the time period it was written. I do not see myself reading the other 2 books in like the series that's out, but I'm glad I finally gave it a read, so I at least know what people are talking about when they discuss the book. So there you go. 3 stars. It was fine. Coming in at number 5 is a series finale, and that book is Strange and Ever After by Susan Dennard. This is the 3rd and final book in the Something Strange and Deadly series. This is a very old series. This was a book that I read as part of the Final Book Support Group Readathon, and it was a book on my 22 series to finish in 2022. So for that, yay, it's done. I do think it was overall a decently satisfying ending. I didn't love everything about it. It took me a long time to warm up to our main character, Eleanor. She was doing and saying some things that I just really did not like, and the other characters around her did not like and were like calling her out on, and she was like kind of digging her heels in, thinking that she wasn't doing anything wrong. I get where she was coming from. She had a lot of grief she was dealing with, but I didn't love her at the start of the book. It took probably halfway through before I really like warmed up to her. In terms of the overall story, Eleanor's brother decides that he's going to raise the dead. This is back in the first book. And because of that, these zombies are like walking the earth, if you will. And Eleanor falls in with a group of people who are working to put the zombies back where they belong and get rid of the magician slash necromancer who's like responsible. So that's kind of the kickoff. There's a romance between Eleanor and Daniel, and as the story went on, there were like more layers brought into like the overall story in terms of like why Eleanor's brother made the choice that he did like in the first book and like the fallout from that. So I did enjoy the series a lot, but it was so long between reading the second and the third book that I don't actually know how, like, the consistency in the writing, I guess. So I felt like it was a decent ending, but I don't actually know if I liked the third book as much as I liked the second book. I don't remember a ton about the first and second books. I loved them when I read them, but I feel like this was a series that you really needed to read closer together, and I did not do that. So overall, 3.5 stars. It was fine. If the series sounds at all up your alley, I would recommend it because I do feel like there were some really great things done in the series, but I cannot really speak to specifics because it was so long ago that I read the first two books. Oops. All right, coming in at number 4 was the August pick for the Literally Dead book club hosted by Kayla at Books and Lala, and that was What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. This was a retelling of the Edgar Allan Poe story, The Fall of the House of Usher. I have read The Fall of the House of Usher. I read it a really long time ago when another series of books was like built on it, or like one book. It was called The Fall. It was by Bethany Griffin. I'll put the cover right here. So I've read The Fall of the House of Usher a couple of times. This was a very good retelling of it, and I liked kind of the difference that the author took in terms of the story. So in this story, we're following Alex. Alex gets a letter from their childhood friend who is very, very ill, and she asks Alex to come back to her and her brother's family house because she wants to see them again before she inevitably passes away. And when Alex arrives, they realize that there is some funky stuff going on. So we've got mushrooms, fungi, and body horror-ish. It didn't bother me, so I can be kind of squeamish with that sometimes. This one didn't bother me. And the difference between this version and the original story was just that the characters were much more fleshed out, which I really, really liked. I really liked this one. I'm giving it 4 stars. I'll be curious to see what others have to say when I watch the live show for it. But yeah, I really liked it. It was very good. And as my first T. Kingfisher book, I can say that I'm going to read more from her because I'm curious to see what else she's written. All right, coming in at number 3 was my buzzword pick for August, and that was Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn. This is the second Gillian Flynn book that I have read. The first one was Gone Girl. And one thing I'll say about Gillian Flynn is that she has a knack for writing very unlikable characters. So there was not a single character in this book that I liked. They all were flawed, and in some cases quite flawed to the point where like you did not like them at all. Our main narrator has her own issues. I probably liked her the most, but the supporting cast of characters were very unlikable. And our main character makes some decisions that also make her kind of unlikable. That being said, this was a very interesting thriller, I would call it. So our main character is a reporter. She is sent back to her very small town, her small hometown, I should say, in rural Missouri, which was fun because I'm from Missouri. Not a rural city though, I'm from St. Louis. But so it was kind of interesting because it really kind of delved into what rural Missouri towns can look like and the kind of cross between a Midwest state and still thinking they're part of the Confederate South, depending on where you are in the state. From what I could gather from this book, her rural town is in the boot heel of Missouri, very rural, like close to the Arkansas border, along with Tennessee, I think. So it was interesting to get that like slice of life snapshot from this very rural town. But she is basically going back to this town to investigate the death of two like teenage girls, 12-year-old girls. I think they're 12, maybe younger. And when she goes back, she's also confronted with like the reality of having grown up with a family that has got some serious issues and kind of what that did to her as a person. So it was very interesting. The mystery slash thriller aspect really kind of kept you gripped throughout the entire story. Did I like the book? No, but it was really well written, which is why I'm giving it the 4 stars. I do not see myself ever rereading it. It was an uncomfortable read, but I'm glad that I gave it a read, and I feel like it was worth the read, if that makes sense. I know that's like a weird thing to say. I didn't like it, but it was worth the read, but hopefully you can get what I'm saying. I felt the same way about Gone Girl. Okay, coming in at number 2 was A Prayer for the Crown Shy by Becky Chambers. This is the second book in her Monk and Robot series. I think it's the second and final book. I think it's a duology. The first book was A Psalm for the Wild Built, which I read back in June and absolutely loved. It was my favorite book of the month. This one was very, very good as well. It's a 5-star read. I had 2 5-star reads, so I could probably like flip-flop number 2 and number 1 depending on my mood. But as I'm talking to you right now, this one's coming in at number 2. So this continues the series of Dex and their robot friend, Mosscap, as they kind of traverse the world, and Mosscap is introduced to the cities because Mosscap wants to check in and see how humanity is doing, and Dex is their tour guide. So it's the continuation of that. This one was very much an introspective read as Dex attempts to figure out what they want from their life. Their friendship with Mosscap is very sweet and heartwarming. The world that this is set in is very idyllic and what we hope can eventually happen. And I really, really loved it. It was just as heartwarming as the first one, put a smile on my face. It was very gentle writing. I really, really loved it. So would highly recommend this series, even if it doesn't sound like something you might enjoy, because I am not a sci-fi reader really, but this was a great series. All right, and coming in at number 1 as my favorite book of the month, right now when I'm filming anyway, was Anne of Green Gables by L.M. Montgomery. Now, first of all, I've talked about this cover. I think it's so cute. So yeah, I did listen to this on audio for the most part. I think I finished reading the last few chapters of it in print, but I've got to say, Anne is one of the best characters that has ever been written. She is hilarious, and the world that the author created with Anne and Marilla and Matthew just made me smile. I felt like this is just a very happy making book. And for a classic, this actually reads very, very quickly. Now I did listen to it on audio, but if I had been reading it in print, I will just show you, like, the font is not that small, and I feel like it would have read very quickly even though it's over 400 pages. And I don't know that I'm gonna finish reading the rest of the series, but I can see why people love this book and continue the series. Now, I was not new to Anne's story. I have seen the movie version, I think, and I also watched a few episodes of the TV show on the Disney Channel, Anne of Avonlea, I think is what it was called. So I'm familiar with the story. So a lot of what happened in the book I already knew was coming up, but the scrapes that Anne gets herself into are just very funny. They're very funny. And I really liked the narration. Her chapters, Marilla's chapters, Matthew's chapters, they were just all really, really great. I'm glad I gave this one a read. This was a book on my 22 books to read in 2022 list, and it was worth the wait. So I would highly recommend it if you're at all curious. This is a classic that I think everyone could enjoy. And there you have it. Those are the 7 books that I read in the month of August. And I had mostly a good time with all of them. My lowest rating was a 3-star, and I had 2 5-stars, so I can't complain too terribly much. So hopefully we can keep that going into September, where I am participating in Becca's Bookathon. So we'll cross our fingers that I can actually complete a full TBR, because it's been a while. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave me a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to my channel if you would like to see more from me, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, everyone.